Have you ever noticed something strange about two women who lose a husband in the very same year? Both wake up in a house that suddenly feels too quiet. Both learn to sleep on one side of the bed again. Both get asked by their children if they're doing okay, and both say yes, because that's the easier answer. Yet one of them, somewhere in the second year, feels her heart quietly wake back up. And the other? She decides, without ever saying it out loud, that this part of her life is simply over. Not because her heart stopped working. Not because love stopped being real. Not because she stopped being a woman worth choosing. Because somewhere along the way, she was taught that wanting is a young woman's privilege. And she believed it without ever questioning it. That belief, not her age, is what quietly closes the door. And tonight, we're going to open it again. Learning something new. Something happens the first time you sit down to learn a skill you have no business learning at your age. At least, according to everyone else. Your hands feel clumsy. Your mind wanders back to a version of yourself who used to be good at things. For a moment, you want to quit before you even start. I understand that moment. I have lived it. But here is what nobody tells you about that clumsy first attempt. It has almost nothing to do with the skill itself. Learning something new was never really about the guitar, the camera, or the dance steps. It was always about proving something quieter to yourself. That you can still surprise yourself. That your mind can still stretch in a direction it has not gone before. That being seen trying and failing a little in front of other people is not humiliating. It is honest. A 2024 AARP survey found that 76% of women over 50 say they feel more comfortable in their own skin as they age, and 68% say they have finally grown into their most authentic self. Read that twice. The women in that survey are not less confident than they were at 30. They are more. Something in them changed, and I do not think it happened by accident. I think it happened because they kept doing things that reminded them who they still were. That is what I want for you this week. Not mastery. Not a new hobby to fill an empty afternoon. I want you to feel, even for 1 hour, the particular thrill of being a beginner again. Because a woman who is still willing to look foolish in pursuit of something new has not given up on herself. She has simply decided her story is not finished. Pick something. Dance. Photography. A language you always meant to learn. It does not matter which one. What matters is the moment your hands shake a little and you do it anyway. Nobody is coming to hand you permission for this. Not your children, not your friends, not the version of you that used to wait for the right moment. That shake in your hands, that is not weakness. That is you still becoming. That new trembling in your hands is worth noticing, because the next time you feel it, it might not be inside a classroom. It might be on a quiet morning walk when the real question finally shows up. Walking, asking how you want to be loved now. When was the last time you took a walk with absolutely nowhere to be? Not a walk to the mailbox, not a walk to burn off breakfast. I mean a walk with no destination and no purpose except your own thoughts. Most of us stopped doing that years ago. We turned walking into a chore, another box to check before the real day begins. But something shifts when you let a walk simply happen. Your shoulders drop. Your breathing slows, and somewhere around the 5th or 6th block, a question tends to surface, one you have been quietly avoiding indoors. What do I actually want love to feel like now? Not at 25, not at 40, now. I think that question frightens people. It frightened me for a long time, because answering it honestly means admitting the old answer no longer fits. Maybe you married young. Maybe you spent decades loving someone who needed you more than he ever saw you. Those are real chapters. They are not wrong, but they are not the whole book either, and the pages left are still yours to write. A walk gives you that room. No screen, no audience, no one waiting for your answer. So this week, take one walk with no destination. Leave your phone in your pocket. Let your mind wander toward that question instead of away from it. You might not find the full answer on the first walk. You rarely do. But you will have finally asked it out loud, even if only to yourself. Isn't that where every honest answer actually begins? That question rarely finishes itself in silence. At some point, it needs another voice to answer back. Real connection. There's a particular kind of silence that settles into a house once the phone stops ringing the way it used to. Not loud silence. The quiet kind, the kind you get used to without noticing you got used to it. Co-workers move on. Grown children build their own noisy houses. Friends move away or grow busy or simply drift. The way people do without ever meaning to. And somewhere in the last few years, whole days can pass without anyone asking how you actually are, not the polite version, the real one. I want to say something plainly here. Isolation rarely arrives all at once. It arrives one skipped phone call at a time, one canceled lunch, one conversation you meant to have and quietly let slide. By the time you notice it, it already feels normal. A real conversation, the kind where someone actually listens without waiting to speak, is not a small thing at this stage of life. It is practice. Practice trusting someone with an unfinished sentence. Practice being fully seen again, without performing okayness for anyone. That matters more than it sounds like it should. Because before you can let a new kind of closeness in, whether that is romance or something quieter, you have to remember what it feels like to be safe inside someone else's attention. So this week, have one real conversation, not small talk about weather or grandchildren's report cards. Ask someone what they are actually afraid of lately. Tell them yours. You may feel exposed for a moment. That is fine. Trust is a muscle. And muscles only come back the way they went, slowly, and only if you use them. Once you remember what it feels like to be trusted with your fears, something else starts to loosen. The part of you that still knows how to have fun without anyone's permission. Joy that needs no permission. Independence gets defined wrong more often than almost any other word in this conversation. People hear it and picture a woman alone in a quiet apartment, needing nobody, wanting nothing from anyone. That definition never made sense to me. It is not the absence of connection. It is not the absence of joy either. It is simply this. Your happiness no longer requires anyone's permission to exist. Think about that for a second. Somewhere inside a long marriage, joy quietly became a joint decision. What counted as funny? What was worth doing with an afternoon? Even fun, at some point, needed someone else's approval to feel valid. That habit does not disappear just because a marriage ends. It lingers. You catch yourself hesitating before buying the paint color you actually wanted. Before signing up for a class nobody else would enjoy. Before laughing too loudly at something only you find funny, you second-guess the harmless things. The small, private, entirely yours things. Want to push back on that hesitation directly. Nobody gets a vote on your joy anymore. Not an ex-husband, not a well-meaning daughter, not the version of you that spent decades checking first. Try this instead. Do one thing this week purely because it delights you, with zero explanation required. Paint the wall, take the class. Dance badly in your kitchen with the blinds up. Nobody needs to know why. That is the entire point. Notice how it feels to not ask first. That feeling has a name, and it is not selfishness. It is independence, finally practiced correctly. There is a stillness that follows joy like that. After the laughter fades and the room goes quiet again. And in that stillness, a much older question tends to wait. Who are you exactly when no one is left to define you, beating yourself again before letting someone in? The 5 things we have talked about this week all lead here to the one most people skip first. Not because it is hard exactly, because it asks you to sit with yourself before anyone else gets to. Learning something new. A quiet walk, an honest conversation. An afternoon of joy you did not ask permission for. Each one, in its own way, was preparing you for this moment. The moment you actually meet yourself again. I do not mean that in some vague greeting card sense. I mean actual time, alone, with a notebook or just your own thoughts, asking questions you have been too busy to ask. What do I actually believe about love now? What did I learn from? What did not work? What am I still carrying that is not mine to carry anymore? Most people skip this step and go straight to looking for someone else. I understand the instinct. Loneliness makes patience feel like a luxury you do not have. But here is what I have come to believe. A relationship built on top of an unexamined self tends to repeat the same shape as the last one, different face. Same old wound quietly running the show. So before you look outward again, spend one evening looking inward. Write down what you actually want, not what is expected of you. What you want. You spent decades learning how to be loved by someone else's definition. This part is about finally learning your own. 5 hobbies. One quiet truth underneath all of them. You are allowed to still want. Not later, not once things settle, not when it finally feels safe. Now, exactly as you are today. None of it requires a plan. It requires one small permission, granted by nobody but you. Your heart does not retire just because your calendar did. So tell me honestly, down in the comments, what is one thing you have quietly stopped letting yourself feel? And what would it take to feel it again? I will be right here, reading every word.